Jordan Feliz, the
Yo,
certified gold artist, GMA New Artist of the Year. My bro, how are you, man?
yo, dude, what an intro, man. I don't know if I deserve it.
I knew I couldn't tell you about it beforehand because you said, please, 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 please do not.
Yeah, no, dude, man, doing good. Just living, man, living. Let's go. How you
Yeah,
doing?
I'm doing well, bro. I'm just in my tiny shack of an apartment currently in a
Hey,
little pocket of LA, and we're living it, baby. We're doing
bro,
it.
that's what's up, man. Let's go.
Cool, dude. So I'll read off the first question for you that I've been thinking through, and I thought through a lot of these questions, and I wanted to get some fun information out of you. So
Yes,
let's see
I'm
how it
all
goes.
about it. I'm in. Let's go.
Cool, man. So Jordan, from 2012 to now, and
Yeah,
I say those years I say 2012 specifically because knowing you during that time and knowing where you were at musically and
yes,
when transition started really happening, uh,
yep.
when you look at that journey from then to now, what are some key things that stand out to you, whether they're takeaways or just thoughts that you think when you reflect on that time?
Back on 2012 specifically.
Yeah, and even like as it's because I feel like because you moved in 2013,
Yes.
and then once you got to Nashville in 2013, you were working as a valet for a little while there, and then where did you get connected from there?
Well, from moving to Nashville, really, I mean, it really did start honestly in 2012 because essentially I ended up, and I mean, I know you know this, but I was in a band for a long time, and then our band kind of broke up and dispersed, and then I kind of started to try to revamp something off of that because it was kind of like my only means of income. It was the only thing I knew what to do. I had no
Right.
other job other than playing music.
Right.
And so I had just ended up talking to a friend at the time. He was just one of my best friends who called me and was like, "Hey, dude, this sounds crazy, but I feel like God's calling me to manage you, and I think you should do a solo career." And at the time, I was
Who
in
who who was that, by the way?
Adam Taylor.
Adam Taylor, and
Um,
he was in a band.
he was in a
There was
band.
a pretty big Christian band at the time,
Yes,
and
yes,
they'd had a long history of being successful, falling up. Right.
yep.
I
That's
love
right. That's
remember and love
right,
that band, baby.
bro. They are so good. Still one of my favorite Christian bands.
Yes.
But yes, so and so he had basically called me and I was just like, man, like this is kind of what I'm doing. I'm in this band right now currently, but and he goes, well, hey, I want you to fly out to Nashville. I want you to write songs, and let's just see if maybe we could put an EP out or something that we could shop around the labels. And so I ended up flying out there with band members and everything, and we kind of did that for like almost a year.
Like
Um,
going back and forth and just
Going back and
writing.
forth, yeah, writing a record, doing this whole thing. And during that year, Jamie and I had gotten married in 2011. And so we kind of started praying about the fact that we kind of felt like maybe we should move there. Uh, and then we felt like a year after we started praying, we felt like the Lord confirmed it for us and just said, hey, you're going.
Right.
And so we were like, okay, we're going. And we moved, and I tell a lot of people this story, and I'm gonna try to like run off too far
Oh,
because
do
it's
do your thing. This is
a long story, but
you do it.
um,
That's what it's for.
yeah, I know, but I don't want it to turn into 3 hours for
Oh,
people.
it's
So
all good.
wrap it
It's all
up.
good. It's all good.
Uh,
It's a hair past a freckle time to move on.
you know, being in the band that I was in, we had kind of developed contacts throughout the country. And so I booked this tour to move because we couldn't afford to move.
Right.
2 weeks before we were supposed to leave to move to Nashville. And I think you and I actually talked about this maybe a month before we moved, and I had kind of plotted this whole thing. And then 2 weeks before, every last show got canceled. I was so stressed out, and it was like we were, I kind of started feeling like, okay, is this kind of the Lord just saying like, yo, you've actually not been hearing me, like this is
Right.
not something you should do. And so we immediately just kind of kept praying on it. And we're like, okay, do we still go? What's going on? And we felt like the Lord was still saying, go, just trust me. And
Yeah.
so the other crazy thing was like a week before we were leaving, I had another one of my best buds in the entire world call me and goes, hey, are you moving to Nashville? Because I think I'm going to move with you.
Yeah.
And so my friend David ends up hopping. He was a drummer. He's an amazing drummer. And he was just like, hey, I'm going to come with you. And
Yeah.
so,
David Nakaris of Rotterdam November, right?
bro, yes. Uh,
Does he hate that joke?
dude, I don't think he hates it, but I think it's just hilarious. He
I think,
probably,
yeah, I love that dude. He is,
dude, oh, he's the
I
best.
still do impressions of David's impressions to this day.
Oh, bro, of course. They're the
Yeah.
best. But anyways, yeah, so I mean, we kind of left not having a plan.
Right.
There was no, yes, this is what we're doing, this is how we're getting there. And dude, like it was just like one of those things every step of the way. I was cold calling churches. We left Clovis, California,
Yeah.
and that day we're driving and I didn't have a show and I was just calling people that I knew or Googling churches and just
Right.
calling, being like, hey. And so we ended up getting a show at a church in San Bernardino that night. And they just had me come in and lead worship, and I got to sell some merch, and that paid for our gas to Arizona. And we kind of camped out at Jamie's parents' house, who my wife, Jamie, but for everybody listening, she's from Arizona. And so we ended up just kicking it at her parents' house for a couple of days. And then a promoter that I knew there said, hey, I know you're moving. There's this church that just wrote me and asked if I knew of anybody that would want to lead worship.
His
So,
name wasn't Seven, was it?
no, not seven. No, you're thinking 17.
17. That's what it
Yeah,
is.
but
Okay.
but he does. The dude that 17 works for, Brian, is the dude who called me.
Got it.
Um,
Okay.
and so this guy Brian Cole calls me and is like, "Hey, I got this church, in Gilbert, Arizona, that needs a worship leader." So I went, played the thing, sold some merch, got us to Albuquerque, and then we stayed with some friends in Albuquerque, and they gave us a washer and dryer.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's just like this crazy, like fumbled way of getting there. And I mean, dude, it's crazy because in Oklahoma City, we had basically kind of run out of money. It was kind of a like the tipping point of we don't know what's going on. And I had called some people, and everybody it was just nothing.
Yeah.
And then I ended up getting a text message from a buddy of mine who was in a band called the Red Airplanes in Texas. And
I remember them.
yep. And he goes, I know this dude who has a church in his barn in his backyard. Give him a call. And so I was like, that sounds about right. Let's go.
Yeah.
Uh,
Right.
and so I called this guy, and he was like, yeah, dude, come on in. He paid me like $100, and I sold merch. And that day, though, dude, I played 3 services, and in the 3 services total, I played to about 26 people. But I sold almost all of my merch. And we also, dude, I had a lady that had walked up and said, hey, you were playing up there, and the Lord just said that you needed this, and she gave me a check for like $500. And
Yeah. Yeah.
it's just one of those things. And it's crazy because by the time we actually rolled into Nashville, we had made money to move. And this is kind of a long way of answering your question, but
Not at all. This is great.
the thing that I learned the moment I got there was I felt like the Lord stopped me the moment that we pulled into this little place that we were moving into. And it was just him saying very lovingly, you had a way of doing it. I broke it because I had a better way of doing it. And you trusted me. And he's like, I just want you to continue to lean on me and not to continue planning, not to continue, trying to achieve things without me in them, because I want to be in them, because I will make them vastly better than you can on your own.
Right.
And
Which, if I can just add really quickly, you were always somebody, I think that's really profound because from my perspective, you were always somebody who you were the driving force behind a current affair, and then behind the current. And then when you first started your solo stuff as Jordan Feliz, I mean, it's always been you who's really had to like be in charge of the numbers and who's getting who am I paying out that's playing for me. And it's interesting to have the thought of, oh, God's like communicating to you, knowing that you have this deep connection to what you're doing, and it means
Yeah.
everything because you're invested in every area of it. But
Yes.
then him saying, listen, despite all that,
Yes.
I got you. That's great. I love that.
Exactly, man. And I think, for me, it had kind of just been this moment of uh, complete trust. And I know that it's something that I don't feel like a lot of people can actually understand and
Sure.
discern, because faith doesn't really look like a shiny penny. It looks like a trust fall, like on the top of like the Empire State Building or something.
Right.
You know
Yeah.
what I mean? It's like actually something that you're like, I'm not doing that. You know
Right.
what I mean? I would never do that. And even if it was somebody that I trusted with my life, probably still not going to do it. And I think that it was one of those moments that I realized that that's how that actually should look. It's almost the way that it looks properly to have faith is when we're living in almost, I'm going to say this because it's going to sound a little extreme, but it's almost like a little bit more radical than I think.
No, true. And it truly is.
That the typical like Christianese
Absolutely.
faith walk is. It's just a lot different than that in my personal opinion, and in my own walk, but dude, yeah. And we got here, and the craziest thing about this whole thing is so I got here, I had this big profound moment walking into this little condo that we were moving into that was 2 bedrooms.
Right.
And David and I were exhausted. We had just driven across the country and we were roasted, and we're unloading my van and trailer full of all of this furniture and stuff. And it was crazy because me and David were like, dude, we need coffee. So we drove into downtown Franklin, which is basically where we live now. Dude, we walk into Starbucks and we're walking out, and this lady, she literally, as we're walking across Main Street in downtown Franklin, she goes, hey, you guys look like you're in a band. And my friend David, Connor, I know you know him too, but he's like one of the most like charismatic, just like he's just David, like literally he couldn't have turned around faster. He turned around, he goes, we're not a band, but this dude is amazing. And I immediately just like, I am so extroverted, but the moment anybody starts complimenting me, I just like, I'm like a little like, I'm like a clam that just blows up. I'm like, no, I'm not that cool. I'm just, I'm just this dude.
Yeah.
Whatever. And she goes, really? She goes, that's awesome. She was like, what kind of music are you doing? And I was like, well, honestly, I feel like we just moved here, and I feel like the Lord called me here because he wants me to do Christian music. And she was like, that's crazy. I used to be in a Christian band called FFH. And I grew up like listening to FFH in the car with my parents. And I was just like, wait, you were in FFH? And she was like, yeah, me and my husband, Jeremy. And so, and so she literally goes on and says, hey, here's my email. Here's my husband's email. Email me a demo. I'd love to send it to some of my friends who work at, labels or management or whatever. And I had told her, I was like, well, I already have a manager, and she was like, well, those people can get in contact with, just send me the demo.
Right.
And so that night I went home and I sent her the demo, and, it's crazy because for about 2 weeks we sat around, got used to living in Tennessee, and then we got jobs as valets, and we started parking cars, and I did that for 3 years. But about 3 months into my job as a valet, I ended up getting a phone call from a label, and this guy answers the phone, or that's calling me. I pick up, and he goes, hey man, my name's John Sell. I work with Centricity Music, and I got your demo of this song that I wrote called I Choose to Love. And he goes, I got this demo and I love it, and I would love to talk to you about it. And I was like, oh dude, yes. And so we schedule a coffee date. And then the next day I get another phone call, and it's like, hey dude, my name is Andrew Osenga. I work at Capitol Records. I heard this, song I choose to love. I love it. I'd love to like talk to you about it. So I was like, what? What? And so I'm like, what is going on? It's like I'm 3 months in, and I'm like, I'm just freaking out. And
Who in the
then
what and
like,
where was I?
literally. And so dude, I don't know, man. It just kind of everything just started falling into place, and about 4 label doors opened up, and I got in, you know, rooms with a bunch of writers I shouldn't have been in the room with, and at the same time, I'm also parking cars with a lot of country people too. So I I ended up like kind of like in these weird like circumstances with people. You were here for one of them. I mean,
Yeah.
you knew how weird my job was, because all of a sudden, I mean, you'd park a car and then you'd be like eating a burger at the listening room with like Alan Shamblin,
Right.
who's like one of the greatest country
I
writers of
think the night that I was there, Bo Bice was there.
that. Yes, Bo Bice was there.
How
I mean,
great.
it's just kind of weird. Like, it was like such a strange thing. You just be parking a car, and then later that night you'd be playing an acoustic guitar with Bo Bice, or you'd
Right.
be eating burgers with Alan Shamblin, or you'd be, having a discussion with, you know, I mean, dude, there's so many people that are in country music too that have like been there. Kelsey Ballerini, Jamie used to do her hair, and
Yeah.
I used to park her car when she'd come in for do songwriting rounds, and it was just a crazy time, man. And there were so many significant events in that season, but I think that really the greatest all happened in that first season, that really just set our posture for how I got to where I got. You know what I
Right.
mean?
Right. Yes.
And I think that was really the biggest thing, was just the posture in which got created the moment we moved, which set our hearts into this place of, we want to do the thing that God sends us down the path. We don't want to create a path and say, God bless this path. You know what I mean?
Right. Right.
We just want to walk down the one that's already been created, because we know that that's the proper use of it. So, yeah.
Right, dude. I mean, truthfully, towards the tail end of that, you really are leading into the next question I had for you, which was, you were talking about, you're writing with these different people that you're feeling like, oh, hey there, So now, I mean, you've had so much awesome success now, and I it's so cool just for me, aside from doing this interview with you, but being your friend, it was so cool to watch that and
Thank
see it,
you, dude.
especially being in and somebody who got to play alongside you and
Thank
just
you,
and
man.
know you. It was really
Yeah.
cool. You hope that it happens to people like you,
Oh,
right?
thank you,
And
man. I
so
appreciate that
it's
a lot.
awesome, man.
Thank you.
But
Thank you.
into the next question, and I know nobody really loves to name drop. I get it, but I'm gonna ask anyway. What have been some of like the best writing moments you've had with people that you esteem so much, and you were just kind of like, have you had any of those surreal moments where you're like, all right, I'm doing this with such and such? Or
I've had a couple of those. There's okay. I think that there's one thing though. There's a whole lot of people that
because I know for you, this is every day. This is no big deal, right?
yes,
This is your life. Okay.
no, I know, and I'm gonna try to say this as properly as possible.
Hey,
Um,
I am paying attention and listening.
yeah, I think
Be
like
proper.
okay, so so I think, when I started writing, it was like all of a sudden I was getting tossed in with rooms of people that wrote a lot of like the hits that I grew up listening to. You
Right.
know what I'm saying?
Yes.
Like, and that was kind of a little bit of a like what is going on,
Total trip.
'Cause
Total
all of a
trip.
sudden you start looking, um you start looking up, what their work actually is, and you're like, oh my gosh, this dude wrote half of a DC Talk record that I
You
grew up
start you
listening
start reading the liner notes.
to. Yeah, exactly, dude.
Right.
And I think, you know that's kind of where it all began. And then it kind of got to a place where then I started working with people that actually were writing the big hits now.
Yeah.
That's when I started getting really nervous,
Yeah.
honestly.
Yeah,
Because then,
totally.
you know, and the people that you get to work with, it's like the caliber in which they work is a totally different level, you know?
As a gold artist yourself, I mean, that's a pretty for lack of a better word, exclusive club.
It's
And
it's it's a
you
cool.
gotta be at a certain, as you said, caliber to be a part of that. So I have
Yes.
before you answer that, is the imposter syndrome something that you feel a lot? Like how I personally feel whenever I write a song, I'm like, I'm a fraud, and like I feel like anybody thinks I'm talented doesn't know how hard I'm like pushing this up. Or do you not deal with that at all?
Dude, I think I do. I think I'm kind of Switzerland in it because
Okay,
there
yeah,
are moments I feel that heavily.
sure.
Like, and then there are moments I'm like, I think, okay,
Is it like,
I
this is
guess
just who I am? I know who I am.
yes, but then there's the part of me that also feels, it's not even like, I guess, it's more of undeserving, I guess I would
Sure,
say.
interesting.
There are a million people in different scenarios that are much better at my job than I am.
Hmm.
But a lot of that's me, the undeserving Jordan, whereas the opposite is the fact that but I am who I am, and I am in the position in which God has placed me. So I have to operate within the means in which God has given me, or else I'm actually doing a disservice to what who He is and
Right.
what He represents for me. So uh, I think there's just a lot of gratefulness in my heart because I do feel very uh, it doesn't I'm definitely not the most talented dude in the room 90% of the time.
Jordan.
There's there's 10% of me that starts to feel like, oh man, I'm doing pretty good today.
Yeah.
But, dude, I think the people that I really have gotten locked up around, I think, okay, so when Toby Mac called, that was a big one for me.
Okay,
uh
cool.
so when Toby calls, you just know there's
You're like,
something
oh,
like, oh man, this is
yeah,
this is cool.
yeah. You bite
um
your whole fist. You're like, I can't.
yeah,
No,
you're
wait.
like, cool. Yeah, oh yeah, totally, bro.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
oh yeah, man. Uh-huh.
Roger with that. Let me check my
but
script.
but I mean, also, you know now, and this sound, I'm trying to do this in the most, he's also like a friend now, I mean, he's
Yes,
actually
totally.
genuine.
Just for all the listeners, Jordan Feliz is one of the most humble people that I've personally known, and he's just trying to short sell himself, which is totally fine. And it's my show anyway, but he can short sell himself, but I don't want him to. Anyway, continue.
um but dude, he's actually become like like such a solid mentor, for just somebody that I genuinely just look up to.
Yeah,
There are very few people that I feel like I look up to, outside of like my parents. I know you feel that way too because you look up to your parents a lot. And
totally.
my parents,
And Toby Mac's been doing it for a bit too, right?
oh, such a long
Right.
time. And dude, he's one of those dudes that, like, he's just lived what feels like 10 lives.
Yeah.
Every time you talk to him, he says the most simple things, but yet they're so profound. Like, you actually are kind of shook by just how simple and
Because of who he is and who he's established
exactly.
himself as.
Yes,
Yeah.
and just his learnings,
Mm.
time and time again, you're just like, oh man, I know that and I've heard it a million times, but when you say it, it's like it sinks in deeper than
Totally.
when somebody who's just telling you, something that sounds, it's just different. And that's definitely a dude that I definitely got pretty, obviously just got super stoked because he's an icon, man, and he's such a
Yes.
legend for our industry, and he's done so much
And
in his
and now he's a friend. Who would have thought, dude?
yeah, I
10
mean,
years ago, would you be like, holy moly?
no, I don't think I would have just been like, you're stupid, I don't believe you.
Well, hey, what a testament to like to
Dude,
your work, man.
Yeah, it's amazing. But I mean, dude, there are so many of them too, man. I mean, you know, Jason Ingram is a freak of nature. I mean, he's behind every Lauren Daigle record you've heard and every top 10 CCLI song for the last 10 years. I mean, the
Yeah.
dude is just a legend. I mean, there's so many people that I get to work with that are, and I say all that because these are all people that I consider to be friends. But then on top of it, um, they're those kinds of people that if you met them, you would automatically understand that their heart and the posture in which they live their lives is such a it's it will make you strive to change who you are to be better.
Yeah.
You know what
Yeah.
I mean? Those are the kinds of people that I genuinely feel like there are a lot, especially the songwriters in our industry, man. I mean, you know, there are just so many good people, and I mean, obviously, then there's Colby Wedgeworth, who is my dude.
Incredible guy.
Everybody
Unreal
knows,
talent.
literally, and everybody knows, that if you've ever heard a record of
I mean,
mine.
American Candy is like one of my all-time favorite albums.
Oh, bro, yeah, and
He did do American Candy, correct? He didn't do the Main's following album.
no, he's done like all of them.
Did he do the following one too?
I think so. He's done. I mean, he's already working on the next one too.
Oh, awesome.
Um, yeah, I think he's done every single one besides maybe the first one, maybe.
Okay. Yeah, dude, American Candy. That is just
Yeah.
I
Oh
play
yeah.
it to this day. It's
Yeah,
amazing.
bro. He's a freak of nature, and I mean, he and I kind of found each other. I mean, we're both Cali boys. Our bands used to play together, and we ended up in a room together, and we wrote the biggest song I've had to date. So I mean, and it's just kind of worked ever since. And this third record, a lot of this question too that you're asking me. I'm sorry, I'm taking so long
No,
to
no,
answer.
no, no.
This question, a lot of the answers, especially when it comes down to working with people, I wish I could answer more clearly right
I
now,
get
but
it.
I can't because
It's under wraps, baby.
it's under wraps and it's third record material right now. But
Hey,
there are some really cool things coming. So
love
yeah.
it. Big fan. So, what if? Because I mean, constantly, my own feeling as a songwriter is that as I kind of, this is my personal journey that I'm on, is that I'm kind of deconstructing a lot of how I view myself, which is I'm trying to view myself as not as good as I think I am, right?
Yeah.
And what's come from that is that it seems like I'm able to learn so much more. But I know everybody's experiences of how they learn, how their learns happen, even as they just
Yeah.
have years and years of songwriting. It's all different. But have you had any learns or any practices that you've started doing more recently, or what is a, because I know so many settings are different things make different songs and
Yeah.
different moods and all that, but is there anything consistently that you go to mentally, or if that makes sense at all, when you're in the process of writing a song?
Yes. I think that the number one thing for me is to operate in your authority. If you can remain in a mindset of the authority that you've actually been given, I guess the normal term for that is just confidence,
Right.
probably.
Yeah, sure.
But for me, I really struggle with like that swaggy, like arrogant entitlement kind of
Like,
thing.
here I am, look at me.
Yes.
Yeah.
But we also, as human beings, have, I mean, whether you want to agree with it or not, you have been given an authority by Jesus. And like, I think for me, that's been the biggest thing in this latest record has been that I really feel like the Lord has called me to say the things that He's kind of embedded in who I am, and to not be scared of it by the authority in which I've been given.
Yeah.
And I think, dude, like that has been a game changer, because when you can walk into a place owning who you are and owning your faults, owning it, I mean, really, you just know you know who you are better than anybody else
Right.
outside of probably the Lord because he created you.
Right.
Um, but I guess what I'm getting at is that when you walk into a room being the best you um, that you can be and operate within that, you are going to pour out the best material. I mean, bar none. I mean,
Yeah.
there's nothing that will touch that for you because you know who you are and you know your strengths and you know your weaknesses. I'll say the second thing outside of just walking in knowing what you're bringing to the table and knowing, hey, these are the things, is owning the things that you're not.
Hmm.
The thing is I think if you're going to walk into a room with a producer and a lyric forward personality, um and you feel like you're a lyric you know uh forward
Two
thinker,
competing poets.
um I think the thing is you have to still own that thing walking into the room, even though there is somebody else there. Mainly because, I mean, whether you're an artist or a songwriter, you have to convey whatever you've been given. And that's not to create any,
Tension.
headbutting in the room. Um, but you're both there to serve and to write the best song. And so,
Right.
but I also say all that to say, that's where a publisher, or I mean whoever, if you're your own publisher at the time, to set yourself so that you're winning every time you're in a room.
Yeah.
So for me, I am much more of a top line melody driven big, like, big picture writer. i'm
Right.
i'm not like the dude that's in the dirt scrounging around for last minute lyrics, or I'm the dude that comes in and says, hey, I've got a title, it sounds like a hit, let's put the pieces together. I've got 5 or 6 melodies here that I think hug the idea really well. um let's try to hone in on it, you know what I mean?
Cool.
um and I am blessed to have a lot of friends that can hear everything that I'm thinking.
Yeah. So you don't have to just
um,
constantly say now, right about there would be the, yeah,
yep,
this or
exactly.
that, whatever
So
it is. Yeah.
I mean, dude, those have been the big things for me, man, is just like I said, operating within the authority that you've been given, and who you are,
Yeah.
and the strengths that you have, and also just owning the things that you're not good at. You know what I mean? If
Yeah.
you're not good at making a drum beat, don't make a drum beat. You know
Right.
what I mean? Like, don't do it. Don't sit down in Logic or Pro Tools or whatever you're using and don't go try to be a producer. You know what I mean? Because it's
Sure.
just not who you are, and that's okay.
Sure.
Because you are going to be the best you can be at the one thing. You know what I mean? Instead
Right.
of trying to funnel through that
Jack of
100%
all
that
trades,
you
master of
are.
none.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly. Yep,
Very good. Okay. So different question for you, bro.
love it.
Thinking back to current affair days,
Yeah,
you go from, I mean, like thinking about just the styles that you've covered and
totally.
going, I mean, I know you've seen, or you probably remember the videos that I've sent you over the years of like when I'll be like replaying Real Devastation or
Yeah,
any of those old, The Thief or whatever, RIP. But so you've gone from the hardcore genre, right? And you always had that. You were always, like, I would say, and correct me if I'm wrong, in the Christian genre,
yeah,
but just the stylistically, you were really going from hardcore then to more Christian rock to more of like this now like uh, soulful Cali Southern pop blend, like
yeah,
playing with some like classic rock roots. Not really, I'm just kidding. But you've got that like southern twang to it too that like
yeah.
also feels uniquely you for someone who's Cali, right?
Yes, yeah, yeah.
So are there any styles that you're like in the back of your head like, that would be really cool? Like, do you ever hear a song like playing, or you stumble upon something and you're like, it would be kind of, I wonder if I could do something in that style? Or is there anything that you're thinking about doing in a different style?
Oh, dude, all the time.
Yes,
All
let's
the
hear
time.
let's hear some let's hear rattle some off for me, baby.
Okay, like some ideas.
or just one, whatever you want.
Okay, or just like songs and stuff that are like, because for me, I mean, I feel like I get so hyped about other stuff that is not just like pop or
Totally, totally.
um but then there's like the candy, melody pop, like love stuff, you know what I
Yes,
mean?
totally.
Like, I have heard so many of his tracks and immediately just been like, how do I write a track like this,
Yeah.
um he does a really really good job of saying and singing from the same place. uh
Hmm.
um like when a lyric can hug the melody and you believe it because of the way that they're saying it and singing
Right.
it, I mean,
How
that's
it's
when
sonically hitting and forming into your, yeah.
oh dude, that's when you got a big winner, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
um but man, I'm trying to think. So this new record, I mean, I'm doing some stuff that's probably a little bit more like, uh it's got a little bit more of like a gospel-y kind of vibe to it, I would
Sure.
say. But like, it's all been really inspired by a lot of the stuff that I grew up listening to, Earth, Wind and Fire, like,
So we might maybe get some saxophones, maybe not.
I don't know. I mean, I will say this. We did. So one thing that is really exciting, we got to track a full-blown orchestra on this
Oh,
record. Um, and so I'm pretty excited about that. That's pretty, yeah, I'm pretty stoked. And it's, yeah. But then, I mean, I'll tell you this, man. We also have, there's a couple songs in this record that are like, they're just heavy.
yeah,
Um, they're like really personal, and really, I don't know, I think a different shade of color than I think people are probably used to from me, because I think I'm, especially in Christian music, I think I'm known as the dude that always pushes the limits, like from a sonic Christian,
perspective.
what you expect Christian radio or a Christian artist to sound like,
Totally.
um, I like to at least think, and what I mean, a lot of the people that I work with tell me often that I am the dude that usually takes the big risk, you know what I mean, before
Sure.
anybody else does, which is great. I love
Yeah,
being a dude.
totally.
Um, but this one, I mean, it's like we have a lot of songs that are very like meaningful and have a lot of like, it's just a little bit more of like a message, you know
Sure.
what I mean?
Well, I remember just I can't remember who it was I spoke to the other day, but someone said to me, and it might have been over social media, but they were like, man, that song, and for those of you that listen to this that remember and have gone through all of Jordan's career, you'll remember this song. But the song All to You, dude, that was
Yeah,
that I mean that, and obviously Heart, but those that song was so impactful. So like I think you do have a thread of like cutting really deep in a really good way. Cause I mean, I remember the stories that you were getting from these people where they're at their rope's end, right? And
yeah,
it's I remember you talking to me about how these people are coming out of these dark places. And so it's I would say I think I've seen that thread kind of continue.
yeah,
And I'm interested to see how it sounds in that new style. But
yeah,
yeah, I think that's who you are, bro. I think you've always
yeah. And I think it definitely has been a part of what I feel called to say. I think just wrapping it in some different textures is kind of the cool new thing that I've kind of felt a little bit. But we're kind of also diving into some like stuff that feels a little bit more. I think on this new one, I really wanted to replicate some of the rawness of like some of Bellion's latest work,
sure. Yeah, wicked gone.
because I think the honesty in which he gives, and I think this record that I'm putting out is very honest. So
Hmm.
I would say that there's a lot of that. But I mean, even in the last couple days, dude. I mean, I don't, have you heard of Gavi before?
How do you spell it?
GAWVI.
I don't think so.
So okay, so story behind this dude. He is a producer for Reach Records.
Okay.
He's like produced a bunch of Lecrae, like the Christian hip hop world. Okay,
Right.
and so he's been putting out like little solo records for the last couple years, and they're always just kind of wildly genius, and they're just they're a little too cool. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? It's almost
Yeah.
like
It's like, God, I hate that
even
you wrote
Christian
that
hip
and I
hop
didn't write it.
people, yeah. But he just put out a record called Heathen, and dude, it's just wildly sick. And it's like almost every track on there, I'm like, how do I do something like this? It's like a hip hop record,
Yeah.
but at the same time, there's so many elements to it that are just so fun. And I'm like, man, I would love to do
Gets the
something.
wheels spinning a little bit.
Yeah, dude. And then there's this other dude. He's this white guy, but dude, for like literally the first 50 listens, I thought he was a black dude, and then all of a sudden,
He's a white dude with a little soul.
like, yo, dude. But his name is Mark E. Bassi. You gotta go check him out. He's just got some swag, bro. He's got
Yeah.
a song called Morning though. And it's just dope, bro.
Okay.
Like, I mean, the language of it is not like the most pure or wholesome, but just all the production and stuff, it's just very cool. But yeah, I mean, dude, even in this last week, I feel like I've found a couple things that I've just been like, how do we do this? You know what
Yeah.
I mean?
Yeah, totally.
That's one of the cool things about music is you can it's not about necessarily it's not about replicating art, but it's about being the inspiration of others art, in turn making you feel inspired, you know what
Right.
I mean? And like that gets me jacked up. Like, I just love that stuff.
Yes, totally. Okay, so a couple fun questions for you.
Yeah.
Where did we eat, Jordan, on the night in Vegas after the show at John Conrado's church?
In and out.
Denny's.
Denny's. Oh man, it
Yeah.
was either In and Out or Denny's, but I was like, it must be In and Out. It's
Yeah.
probably just because I miss In and Out and I'm craving
That's
it
real.
right
There's none out there, huh? Do
now,
you guys
bro.
have Shake Shack?
We do have a Shake Shack,
Dude, I love
which
Shake
is
Shack though.
which is great.
But
It's
it's not.
just it's just not,
No.
it's still delicious. It's just, I feel like I just have this little bit of just, it's just a soft place in my heart for In and Out. So
Yeah, totally. I'm considering so Josh Hopper, who I know you know, but Josh Hopper was the bass player in a band that I was in when I was 17 and 18, and that's how I got connected to Jordan. And Jordan's really how I got my start in writing. He really mentored me and shared a lot of his revelations with me and did a lot of things for me he didn't have to do. And
oh, dude.
so I thank you for that. But side note to Josh was I totally lost it. And everybody, train of thought, Sagan. So continuing. So Jordan, you went to Buchanan High School in Clovis, California, which is
I
where
did.
I grew up most of my life as well.
Yeah,
And I know you have a proclivity towards water sports. And I
I
know
do.
that you played on the water polo team and you had, hair that was longer than mine, but like not nearly as long as it is now. And
Not
it was
not quite this, but yeah.
bleach blonde.
Yep.
Do you have any interesting water polo stories that you remember? If not, it's okay.
I do. I do have a couple. One of them involves, though, just, I mean, some not so wholesome activities.
Yeah.
But I mean, we'll talk about it for sure. So okay. So in water polo, I mean, it's like, I always like to kind of describe it for people that don't really understand it. It's very similar to soccer in a pool. You're just swimming, not running.
Right.
But there's a lot of, the one thing that really sucks about it is that the referee cannot see underwater. There are no
Right.
like cameras under there telling you what people are, punching or,
Scratching
squeezing
and
or
yeah.
scratching or, whatever. And so I was playing against this dude that we were matched up for literally 2 years against each other. It was like every game we played against Clovis East, this guy, and who knows, maybe he's watching this. Maybe
Yeah.
he knows who I am still. I don't.
What year did you graduate? It was 2007.
2007.
I almost said 8. Yeah. So
Yeah.
Buchanan class of 2007. I know I have some Buchanan followers, but get the word out.
Yeah. Get the word out to Clovis people.
Yeah.
But there was a dude, man, and he just loved punching me. Like he would just punch me like the entire game, and
Yeah.
it was
like, let's just make this a
fight
thing.
like the entire time. And so typically, you know, I mean, I would outswim him all the time. We would always win. You know what I mean? It was just one of those things. But he just loved making my life miserable while we did it.
Yeah, totally.
And there was one day we just were absolutely like kind of murdering them in a sense, and
they almost stopped it. The parents were getting involved.
Like it was almost like people were leaving. You know what I mean? It was just
they weren't even taking their kids with them. That's how bad it was. They were leaving, and they're like, "I hope you figure out a ride."
They're like, "Well, hopefully you'll find a ride home."
Yeah. A lot of missing kids from that year. Anyway, keep going.
Well, I mean, who knows? You know, there's a lot of fields out there. You know, who knows?
It's deep. It's deep. Anyway.
I mean, no, dude. He starts punching me, and then he got onto this thing where he just really wanted to. He just kept punching me, and I knew he was just going for my junk. You know what I mean? Like he's trying to punch me right in my junk.
Yeah.
And I remember, I'll never forget. I literally looked at him, and like after I said this, I felt like my own mother. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I remember, I literally just looked at him, and I grabbed his shoulder, and I squeezed it as tight as I could, and I looked at him, and I just said, "Hey, cut it out." And it was like,
your barking voice is like my favorite register.
Dude, hey.
Yes.
Dude. And I think after I said that, it couldn't have gotten worse, because all he did was he just smiled at me. And I just was like, oh, this is it. So anyways, I had swam in, scored, and then right after I scored, I was swimming back, and dude, he literally reached up and grabbed my
grundle,
my stuff,
the stuff, yeah,
and just literally just squeezed, bro. And dude, I screamed so loud, but we were resetting, and so the ref was, I mean, there was just nobody. And dude, I was in so much pain. I was
I can't. I'm like feeling it in the back of my spine right now.
Oh yeah, I was crying. And so my whole set, it was one of my friends growing up in high school. His name was Zach, and he goes, and he literally looked at me. He's like, "Feliz, what's wrong? What's going on?" And I told him, I said, "That dude just grabbed my junk and squeezed it as hard as he could, and I feel like I can't even breathe right now." I was just
it's unreal. Yeah, unreal.
And so I get out of the pool, and like maybe about 10 minutes later, I got back in, and my friend Zach literally, he goes, "Hey, I'm gonna draw a foul at whole set, and I want you to punch him in the face as hard as you can." And I just remember sitting there thinking, what? I've never hit anybody in my life, you know, really. Right. I mean, like little jabs underwater or whatever, but like I've never really, like, you know, I don't. Yeah. And so, so literally, when you draw a foul whole set, like basically they stop for a second. You throw the ball. The ref, like, so he drew like a serious foul. So the ref had to take the ball and turn around. And so when he did that, I just heard my friend Zach go, "Get him!" And so I just grabbed the back of this dude's head, and I freaking treaded water as high as I could get, and I just went, boom!
Oh, scissor kicked him back
dude,
up.
Everybody on their bench was like, "Ah!" And I felt like, dude, you know me. I mean,
I was just laying there.
Dude, he was done.
Yeah.
And literally everybody turned around, and I ended up getting kicked out of the game.
And we all know in Clovis sports, I mean, for that to happen to your kid, that's not your kid anymore. You know?
The stakes
are too high in Clovis for this kind of stuff.
Too high.
Yeah.
Well, literally, so that happened, and I've never actually forgiven myself. In fact, I've told myself, I don't know what his name is. I kind of vaguely remember what he looks like, but if you are listening, please DM me on Instagram or something, and I'd love to write you an apology for punching you so
Yeah,
hard.
and if you want a rematch, then message me, and I'll reach out to Jordan, and we'll get it squared.
There
Uh,
you go.
so another question for you, bro. What is your biggest pet peeve when you're writing with somebody? Like, are there ever certain behaviors that almost immediately you're like, oh, this is gonna ruin the whole thing? Okay,
I've got a lot of them.
thousands, I reckon.
I do have a lot.
A number beyond reckoning, to quote from Lord of the Rings. Sorry, continue.
Oh my gosh. Dude, I love all your references because mainly because of how clear as day it tells me you don't have children.
Oh, 1,000%, bro. I'm
Because literally,
still.
if
That could
I,
not be a better example that you. That's so accurate. Keep going. Keep it.
it's
Keep on the love.
amazing because it makes me miss pre-kids. You know what I mean? Just being
Sure.
able to watch a movie. Like, dude, me trying to watch that movie would be like me trying to build my own home with my own two hands right now.
Same probability, you know.
Literally the same problem. I mean, literally me going to Home Depot and being like, I'm gonna build my own house today.
Yeah.
Um,
Probably not. Okay.
Probably not.
That's
Probably never
great.
gonna happen. Anyways, I just love that. Stupid sidebar.
Totally
Um,
got it.
I would say my biggest sidebar, my biggest pet peeve. Sorry, my biggest pet peeve in songwriting is when when literally I call it the gang up. Okay. So what it is it's when you're in a three-way write and
Okay.
two people have written together before and they view you as a weak link and then they write an entire song and pretend like you're not there.
So they've already got their existing synergy, and it's
100%. And they
we've got our
never
own
invite
gravitational
you
pull, and you're not
they
invited.
never invite you into it and then they write a mediocre maybe C minus song and think, man, this is a hit. And then nobody ever hears it.
Dude, I mean, you've had that to much higher degrees than I have, but I know exactly that feeling of like,
Yeah.
shouldn't collaboration be a little bit sweeter than this? You
I
know?
mean, yeah. And also, just like, I think for me, the most I've ever learned in a songwriting session is bringing people into the creative process.
Right.
I mean, if you
I
want to
agree with you.
learn, then you start bringing people in that don't think the way that you think. You
Right.
get in a discussion that maybe gets a little heated, but then all of a sudden at the end of the write, you've fought for a song that is incredible and you've learned 5 or 6 new ways of thinking about the way that you're saying something.
Right.
And I think that,
That's so valuable what you just shared, by the way.
oh no, and I think for me, it's just one of those things that I think a lot of the people that will come in and they'll kind of team up or whatever. I think it's just super short sighted, I guess.
Right.
For really.
More self-seeking. We're kind of like my thought has been it must start, not in all cases, I'm sure everybody's different, but it's got to start with an insecurity of like, what I'm bringing isn't enough.
Oh, 100%.
If we're all involved,
Yeah,
opening it, and all, that you kind of lie to yourself, I'm sure, and say like, no, I think we're better, but really you don't want to open up to the possibility that there's going to be great collaboration and you're not going to maybe contribute as much as you thought you would. It's going to be
yeah,
split up a little more, or who knows how it goes. I mean, it goes so many
yeah,
different ways, but just being closed off, like you're saying,
yeah,
it's such a yucky behavior
yeah.
amongst people, that it's like writing is already such a vulnerable thing.
It is.
You're
Yeah,
expressing your quick thoughts of like, maybe, is this good? What do you think of this? And
yeah. And
yeah,
it takes a lot for you to even just be in the room. Period. And so by then barricading people, and kind of, just really just starting this like segregation process in the room is
yeah,
like it's such a disservice to what we do. You
right.
know what I mean? And so for me, it's probably my biggest pet peeve because it just stifles everything when it actually comes down to what songwriting is to me.
Yeah,
So
yeah, certainly. And just before I go on to the next one, like, as I said earlier, I mean, you're really the guy in my mind, who gave me my start, I know, I, that I just, how much I love you and how
Oh,
much I
bro.
appreciate
Thank
you.
you, buddy.
But I, I ask this, and I know I'm not asking you to throw anybody under the tour bus, as it were,
Okay.
but are there any things that maybe some of your boys do on tour where you're just like, "Mm, that," you know what I mean? Like, just fun little things that, after a while you guys are like, hey, keep doing that again. We're wrestling out back.
Yeah. So
'Cause
my
you've known
biggest,
Joey and J-Lab and all these guys for so long.
of course, I would say my biggest pet peeve on the tour bus is people that don't know how to pee in a toilet on a tour bus.
Preach. I feel like all the moms out there really
Yep.
relate to that one. I can
Because
hear my
when it's,
mom as you
yeah,
said that.
because when it's 3 o'clock in the morning and you're taking a middle of the evening little
You're having your
bathroom,
evening
yeah,
constitutional, as it were.
that, yes,
Yeah.
uh, and you don't have shoes on and you walk in there and you step into the bathroom bunk area and all of a sudden your feet are wet. I mean,
And then you throw up
it's
in your
not
mouth.
water. Yeah. And usually a stern text message will be sent out at that exact moment.
Yeah, left standing in your
uh
urine.
yes, yep, that's just a hi, whoever decided to pee all over the floor in the bus is going to be responsible for cleaning it up, and also for cleaning the shoes of everybody and the feet of everybody in the morning, because
Right.
my goodness, what is wrong with you?
If Jesus
That's
washed their feet, you can wash mine.
you can wash mine after you peed on them. Indirectly. No, but that, I would say that's probably my biggest pet peeve, especially on the bus, just because I'm not really necessarily like a crazy OCD neat clean freak or anything, but I definitely do not like anything to be really dirty.
Sure.
I do like people to pick up and clean up after themselves.
It's a
And
lot to ask of guys, it seems.
yeah, and it does seem like, but the I will say this. I feel like I am very blessed to have a crew that is very very conscious of their space and of their things.
Yeah.
There are a couple of them that every once in a while you have to give them a little love tap, but
Sure. Yeah.
it's not as often as you think, I guess.
Right on. Right on. Cool, man. So one of the final questions that I have for you is, yeah, I know you just played one of your first shows in like over 3 months, right?
Yes.
So that's huge. I mean, talk me through that and what your takeaways were after such a long break, and like what did you feel like it meant, and
Yeah.
just all that. Yeah, take it, man.
Man, well, first of all, it was a really incredible night. I think
Where did it happen?
it happened in Nashville.
Cool.
And so Nashville is at a place now where we can have 75% of a venue sold.
Wow, awesome.
Yep. So we played a show with our friends for King Country and partnered with a radio station here called WFM, and also a festival that was basically canceled in Olathe, Colorado, called Night Vision. So basically, they funded us to play a show, and then they record it, and then they live stream it in Colorado. So it's kind of we're killing like four birds with one stone, essentially.
Yeah.
It's a cool moment. But dude, I will say this. When I heard that we were actually playing in front of a live audience, I kind of lost it a little bit.
Yeah, totally.
I was just so happy.
Well, I mean, it's your life, dude. I mean, this is something
Literally,
that's your
and
job, and then you don't do it anymore for a little bit.
yeah, and I think, for, you know, a lot of my friends too, and in this season, there's conversation of us not being able to have a job until next year. You know
Right.
what I mean? And I mean, uh, you know, I don't even know how to say this. It might sound flexy or whatever you want to call it, but there are not a whole lot of people that can go without making money for 9 months.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Truly.
I mean, without losing their home and, all this other stuff. And
Huge blessing.
and the thing is we're not even there. But at the same time, if it gets to that point where we can't play shows for the next, until next year, um, it's one of those things where I think I just got so overwhelmed with joy for a lot of the people that I do know that have been in places where they're, I mean, dude, I know people that are having to refinance their house to make, ends meet for the next
Right.
couple of months. And I know people that, and so there's some really rough spots, for people's businesses. And we feel very blessed because we've been uber provided for, and I also have an amazing record deal which allows me to make money on my records, which is a huge blessing. And
Totally.
there's not a whole lot of artists in anywhere, I mean,
Very uncommon.
not in any part of the music industry, whether you're in pop, country, Christian, anywhere. I just have been very blessed with that. And I feel very grateful for that. But I do have so many friends that don't have that capability. And so I think for me, watching something, even if it's just one thing happen, brings so much hope for me, and also for my dudes, dude. I
Yeah.
mean, my band guys, they're not like
You guys are
crushing
bros.
some massive six-figure salary. You know what I mean?
Right.
They're playing per show, and we base a salary on the amount of shows every year. But if we don't get the shows booked, then we can't pay a salary out. You know what I mean? And
Right.
so, I think that show just brought so much hope for a lot of people in our industry. And there
That's
were
great.
tons of artists and tons of writers and label people and everybody that were there that night, just because it was almost like, I can't believe this is happening,
Yeah,
you
like
know what I mean?
you can't not go.
Yeah. And there was 1,800 people there, so I mean,
Great.
it's like, I think it's just one of those moments, dude, where you're just like, it was such an amazing night because it was such a great show, but also because I think it brought so much hope to people in our industry. And then on the flip side of just thinking internally here from my own perspective, I literally watched 1,800 people engage like no other crowd I've ever had in my entire life.
No doubt, dude. Oh,
Dude,
yeah, I didn't even think about that.
people are just there. I mean, dude, there were, I mean,
Months of pent up everything.
oh, I mean, dude, I think at one point, maybe 40% of the people were all in tears at one
Mm,
point, just in my set alone.
right.
Who knows during For King? I mean, I just, there were so many people that were just, there were so many emotions.
It
There's
felt like
just
there was a lot of impact and emotions were like being let
I
out.
mean, flying, bro. I mean, you've
Mm,
got people that are breaking down on their knees, just tearing up. You've got people that are jumping around on seats. And I mean,
dancing.
they're just ready, man. They're so ready to engage, and they're so ready for joy and
Yeah.
for the presence of God. You know what
Yeah.
I mean?
Totally.
There's not there aren't a whole lot of churches that are able to meet. You're having to do stuff online, and I mean,
Which is so bizarre. Yeah.
so I mean, dude, it was just such a cool experience, and it brought so much hope, for me. I feel like for a lot for my dudes, a lot for our industry, and it brought a lot of hope to people. Man, we left that show just feeling so grateful for the people that were there, that were able to. I mean, it's funny because I got a message of somebody saying that it impacted their life, to the full extent, is what she wrote. And I just was like, man, you impacted my life to the full extent.
Right.
I left feeling like, wow, this is
Incredible encouragement.
what, yeah, man. Like, what an encouragement to watch you guys. You know what I mean? To watch you come out of this mess and just bring joy and raw emotion into something that could have just been one of these,
But they participated. Yeah. Your
Exactly.
participation.
Participation and investment, like complete investment into the night, which was just special, man. It was awesome.
That's awesome. That makes me so happy, man. I obviously love listening to you and love watching your career as it progresses, dude, and the amount of favor you have. And
Oh, dude,
and I owe a lot to you, man. And I tell people that, and it's the truth. And you gave me so much of the start that I needed to be the writer I am today, and to be able to continue to want to better myself, because you modeled that in a lot of ways for me.
Oh, dude, thank you, man.
So
That means a lot. Well, I believe in you. I always have. And,
thanks, man.
For me, I think I saw so much of myself in you when it comes down to just your passion for what you do, and how much heart you have for, and how much of yourself that you give to your craft. You know what I mean? And I think that that's a huge, it's our form of worship, man.
Right.
And I think over the years, I've even just seen that grow in you too. Is just like how much you've even seen just how much it represents God and what you do. And
Right.
I'm super humbled to be a part of your journey, dude. I really am. And
Thanks.
I know that it's, you're still, doing your thing, and you're
grinding away at
you're
it.
grinding. But dude,
Yeah.
I've told so many of my friends this, but literally, dude, just pay attention in this season. Like, never forget a moment of it.
Roger that.
Because the thing is, man, is once you get to a place where you're comfortable, you will continue to grow. But something that Toby has told me several times, and I take these as very wise words, is the fact that these are the moments to soak up, because the moment that you get the top, you have nowhere to go, and you've got nothing else to achieve. There's only planning involved.
Right.
And only basically a way to keep yourself in a position or to get your way out.
Right. Dude, that's such a good
So
word.
you're really just, the moment, like, these are the moments in which you need to harness all the passion and all the heart and all of that, and you need to soak it up, and you need to literally just live in it. Because even though it is a grind, you will look back, and even on the roughest day that you experience, dude, you will look back on it with so much joy. I'll never forget. I know I told you this, dude, but I had a dude throw keys at me.
Yeah.
As a valet, he threw keys, and they smacked me right in my neck, dude.
Right.
And it hurt so bad. And dude, in that moment, I could have literally mildly thought about potentially what it would have looked like to go to prison and just
you're like, what would the headlines really mean for my
literally
family
what
line?
would they be?
Yeah. Will my kids have a shot? Okay.
Yeah.
Right. Totally.
But dude, when I think back on that now, dude, I actually smile about it a little bit. In the moment, I was so mad, and for a season, I was so like distraught at like how people were. But dude, now I'm just like, man, I look back on it, and I'm just like, what a great season, though. To walk out of and to walk into something else, and it brought so much character. So, man, I just want to pour that over you, man. Enjoy it, and don't forget to look around. Don't forget to take the time to
live in it,
to live, dude.
That's good for me. I need to hear that, because that's definitely that resonates. It resonates. So
and dude, like, participating in the now is so much more enjoyable than looking back on the past or trying to plot the future, man. It really is. And
worry about today.
Yeah, dude. And how you can make today the best it can be,
I've tried making it a habit, and I'll have some good streaks, but then you kind of, like, whatever happens, and you kind of like, oh, I totally forgot I was in that headspace. But it makes such a crazy huge difference that you're kind of like, I can't believe I don't do this all the time, that I don't live from this place all the time.
Yeah. And dude, and that's not me saying that I do it all the time.
No, not at all. Totally. I hear you.
But you know what? Because I find myself, even today, dude, this is, I think I had a little bit of low dose food poisoning. I threw up like 6 times last night. It just was a mess.
Punk rock, bro.
Yeah, super punk rock. But yeah, it's like the U's say, I guess it's okay to puke the day away.
Right.
But it's funny because like even today, like I've been like a zombie all day, and then my parents ended up taking the kids, and an hour after they left, I started just feeling better. And then I ate something for dinner tonight, and Jamie and I went up and just relaxed for a couple hours. And I felt so much better. I was coming downstairs just like, oh man, I feel so much better. But today I feel like I kind of missed the mark, you know what I mean, on like enjoying and
I know
making
what
the
you
most
mean.
of it. But at the same time, it doesn't mean that the entirety of my day has to become that. And it doesn't mean that the fabric of tomorrow has to reflect on today.
Yeah.
And it was like, so anyways, dude,
Have you seen the movie About Time, Jordan, before I cut this?
Dude,
It's that end scene. You know what I'm talking about.
One of my favorite movies, bro.
I cry every time.
I literally almost referenced it because,
go back and live each day, but loving all of the details and all the things that even frustrate you.
Yeah. And then the end goal is to just live it once.
Yeah, without going back.
Because the practice is the fact that you don't have to go back because you've already enjoyed it.
Right. Using the gift that you have right here, which is time travel, and that to ultimately never have to use it again.
Literally.
Yeah, that's great.
I mean, dude, it's a good movie to watch a couple times a year so that you can change your views a couple times, bro. It'll keep you.
Whenever I bring it up, whenever my parents are stateside, and I'm like, "Hey, Mom, do you want to watch About Time?" She's like, "Oh yeah, I'd love to throw my heart up." Like 100%. Because we're just always sobbing. As soon as the dad and the son are on the beach, then it's just a sob fest. But Jordan, dude, thank you for doing this with me, man. And I knew that it would be so much fun, and I have so much love for you. And do you have anything that's coming up that you wanna share?
Really, just I have some big releases coming out this summer. Some really fun feature stuff that's gonna be coming. And then I'll be dropping singles throughout the fall for the new record, and the new record will be out early next year. So
awesome.
Just gearing up for that and doing that, bro. Just hopefully someday I'll be able to come back to California and play a show. Probably won't be till 2024, but
hey, I'll be there, dude. I was there at that club. I always tried to get to the Clovis shows. There's a couple I missed, but
let's go.
Yeah, thank you, dude, again. I love you so much, and I can't wait to talk to you again, bro.
Bro, love you too, man, and we'll talk soon.
Cool, bro.